So look, this is the Reclaim Party privacy policy. So it's actually a political party. It's not an individual person who's just doing a petition and collecting signatures on one subject. And when you're petitioning, obviously, if you can petition on paper, you know, ask separate people, and they can just write it down. Now, you've got a right to do that, the right to petition without any commitments. You can't be, they can't take away your right to petition or coerce it from you or abridge it or make you comply with ridiculous things in order to do it, because all you're doing, you know, you're asking someone's support, you know, and actually it requires you to, you know, like get an address and a name and things like that, which they used to be published in the phone book, you know, all the time. Most information is on the internet. That what is the Google? If you you know, if it's amazing that the way that they're starting to go, you know, sometimes it makes you wonder, you know, if you just type in something on Google and it just comes up blank because we can't show you anything. If we can't show you anything, it's all protected information, everything, you know, because every single thing is some information about something or someone. You know, you type it in on Google, like type in, you know, frogs, and just nothing comes up. Oh, frogs are protected. They do the data protection. You can't look at them, you know. So when you're petitioning, which you've got the right to do in person, and people are going around doing it every day on paper, you know, obviously when they sign it, they can see all the other people that have signed, you know. They don't ask you to cover your eyes up or whatever. It's visible. And obviously, if you're suspicious about a petition being legitimate and all the signatures, you've got a right to actually, you know, if you want to check them, you know. I think you have. Now, what I appreciate that the Reclaim Party and other parties, as a political party, you know, they've got data. You know, all companies have got to have, you know, data handling validation like this. When you operate in a proper political party and it's got everyone's email addresses, but also the private information and data, and companies and businesses. But what I find interesting and also amusing is that now that Change.org and 38 Degrees and other big websites that have all got policies like this and data protection, but when I am doing a petition, I'm doing the petition. Now, if I want to do it on a website, right, obviously that big major website itself, you know, some of them are businesses because some of them, Change.org's making money as well and paying staff, and you can pay for petition sponsoring on there. 38 Degrees, you know, there's money involved. They comply with data compliance, right? But what's starting to happen is when people are sending your petition on them big websites, they're not even wanting to give you the data. People are saying now that, you know, when they download their petition, it has got people's names on, but for example, on some of them, it's not giving the full email address or things like that. So it's almost like, I kind of feel like 38 Degrees and Change.org and you know, maybe HM Petitions, although everything on HM Petitions is already, they've already got the detail on the database of all the registered voters in the country. Anyway, when you put your name and postcode, all they do is check it with the database to see if it's valid. So, I mean, for HM Government, they don't need everyone's email address and postcode. Well, they get their email. They get the email address, but the name and postcode and address, street address, is already, the government know everyone's addresses anyway. So all they're doing is, well, it gets checked out when you enter it in. But what it feels to me more and more like is that 38 Degrees and Change.org, they're getting all the data. They've got all this data. I'm the one who's going around collecting signatures, right? And Change.org ends up with all the data. And then it might even be the case where they don't want to give me that data, all of it, when I'm the one who got all the signatures and it's my petition, right? And same with 38 Degrees. Now, And on the government website, HM Petitions, you're lucky if you can even enter a comment or statement because they're restricting the field characters. You can put a link, but and they don't even. They're really picky about what they accept anyway. They're obstructing and blocking a lot of valid petitions because they don't want you to run them. This is part of what's happening to us. We're being hijacked by corporate entities, and Jeff Bezos is wanting to do stuff with the NHS, and they're going to have all this medical data supposedly and all this. It really is part of the companies and businesses will know everything about everyone and have all the data, and then no one else can have that data. Only the corporation, only the chief executives and the controllers of that organisation can have access to data, and normal people like you and me can't because they won't give us it, right? And then who owns these companies and businesses and has access to them? The key work, all this key working business. It ends up being like the investors and shareholders and executives and people like that, BlackRock, Vanguard. It ends up being the aristocracy who are the government anyway. It's like they know everything, and then gradually we are being kind of you got the phone book. There's everyone's name, address, and phone number in the phone book. And there was no harm before, and they used to have a couple of adverts, fly fishing by J.R. Hartley, Trump. Make a point out of, prank calls or whatever, or stuff like that on TV adverts, and it's just that the world's changing, and instead of, we're actually on an evolutionary path from ape to man, yet we seem to be we'd be losing humanity, losing trust. We seem to be, I don't really know what the government thinks progress is. According to Boris Johnson's mind, and these government city flybys and mavericks, they're making massive progress where they're going full speed into the future with Elon Musk's vehicles, electric vehicles and rocket plans, and Jeff Bezos's Amazon empire. Press a button and get something delivered to your house the next day without it being late. That's a certain type of progress, but we are having more and more information and technology taken off us or withheld, the information they don't want us to have, and other information we can have, mainly, only what's there to buy or what they want you to believe or education they want you to have. And entertainment, usually if you're paying for it or accepting ads for it. Yet we seem to be going backwards. We're going in a reverse in trust, and in a reverse in, it's all this blocking and banning and openness and understanding and altruism. We're definitely going in reverse at a high rate. Why would we need to be putting security gates on schools? Why would we need to be putting, security gates on, on every single house and every single doorway, when it used to be, go out for a cup of sugar or milk or whatever, people shouldn't even really be having sugar and milk because it's bad for you anyway, as it turns out, according to a lot of the professional doctors at the moment on the internet. It seems that I think what it is, it's the aspect of groups of people and large groups of people sort of coming together and getting support in an environment where we tend to argue more, like in groups and things like that. But when you're actually not in a group situation, when you're in a one-to-one basis and you ask a person, do you want to support this or that? And they look at that thing and they look at it themselves without any influence or comments to sway them. Do you want to sign my petition, for this or that? And then they look at that and they say, oh, I'll sign it. That is a one-on-one situation. If you go around with those like one-on-one and ask, and you end up collecting signatures, right? Then, I think that's a, it's an environment without any influencing factors or any intervening factors, and the government don't seem to like that or want it, because people can go around and get a lot of support for certain things that the government don't want them to get support in, and that's really what because the money, the government have got a hell of a lot of money, serious money now. This, because they've got adverts on the radio now. Talking about serious money, like on commercial radio. Serious money, because what's important to them is profits. They see a property, to them, that a lot of people might like the look of that property, but if at the end of the day, this company is looking for things to get money out of. And if they can make money out of something by knocking it down and rebuilding it again, because they get money for knocking it down, then they get money for rebuilding it. There's profit to them. And they're desperate to make profits. They're not going to be bothered if that place or property in a village was visually, everyone loved it, and it had an extremely important value to everyone in the whole area. It's not got no value to that company unless they knock it down and build it back up again. That company doesn't appreciate the value that's there to other people. And that's the thing with companies and businesses. The companies and businesses, they're out for the next sale. They're out for the next profit. They don't value things that already exist and don't need changing or modifying at all, and have a value being there to other people just by its presence. And you're not renting it out. You're not selling it. It's just there. There's no... it's not like they're paying people to go into it like a museum or walk through the door. No one's actually making a benefit or profit off it. It's just there, and it's got a value for existing, right? That's what really kills the contractors and developers, because they need to be knocking something down or building something up, or at least maintaining something for them to be making a profit and worthwhile, or they'll go out of business. That's the main problem that I see the Tory party now have got us into. There's a lot of nice things around that we don't want to lose. We don't want to sacrifice them, and no one wants to make any money out of it because it's got a value. It's sat there almost like the gold, the bars of gold. You see, the bars of gold had a value, and Gordon Brown sold the bars of gold off, right? And then they went through the roof in value, and BlackRock and Vanguard have got it, and all the aristocracy now, and it's gone up in value. They made money out of it. The problem is, Gordon Brown and Tony Blair and other people only see gold value in precious metals, gold bars, things like that. Sorrel Lamar Finance is doing videos about BlackRock, and she's advising you financially. Buy art, buy art, buy artwork, buy Banksy. So as I was saying, they're saying like, buy art, buy art. That's what Sorrel Lamar Finance is saying, which is quite a good channel on YouTube. She's saying buy art, buy Banksy stuff, or buy silver, because the market's going to crash, and other forms of money aren't going to be worth as much. But this is the thing. What upsets me is that there are lots of really, really beautiful little places, like, this little place in this park, this corner of it is beautiful. It's got a value to it. And then what happens is people who've got far too much money, right, start meddling with it. They meddle with it. We got an amazing new skate park, and there were some beautiful trees next to it. It made this really enchanting area, and it had this kind of like forest walk. And then there was this woman, and she just got all this money from this charity, and she wanted to use it, and the council got some money, and you need to know when enough is enough. And they just wanted more and more and more there, because they've got money. When you've got money, you can spend it. They're just kind of doing it like putting pies. It's like putting pies in your mouth. And that's what gets you overweight and unhealthy. Because when you've had enough to eat, you've had enough to eat. And people just don't know when they've had enough. They just want more and more. And that's what they're doing now when they're doing up parks, when they're doing up areas. And they're actually doing things to places that really don't need anything doing to them. And it's really beautiful as it is, how you see it. Some places have got a very charming character, and there's beautiful things around them. And some people can't see that, or they just can't stop. It's a bit of a combination. Part of it is that you've just got too much money, because when you can... people say, no, I want to do somewhere up, do somewhere up. If you want to do somewhere up, you obviously can afford it, so you're not short of money. There are places that really don't want doing up and don't want changing. They've got a complete and total
value to them. Like, all the paintings, think of those paintings that are of a scene, like an old gate with a field with some milk churns by it or something like that. People buy that painting and put it on the wall. It's got a value to it. Now, there are places all around the Huddersfield, right, like in Armonbury, in Linley, or in Kirkburton, wherever there are places, right, and this is why you get trees protected. This is why you can get a tree protected, or why you have an area of outstanding natural beauty. It's the reason behind why a building gets listed. Why is it a listed building? Because it's got a look and a style like they've just done to the Sun Inn in Lepton, totally written it off with this gate, which is ruined. There's a row of cottages there, and it's got that's the only little part of the village that has got quaint cottages in it. And they've totally disregarded that. And because the pub's got money, they're making money, they've got money to spend. They're selling loads of food, people are eating pies. And then someone complained about the other garden, so they had to shut that other garden down. Then they went on to having kids in by the yard. Then this charismatic yard, they've put a massive black gate on it, and it's actually higher than 2 metres, which fences and gates are meant to be, you got to have permission if it's over 2 metres. And it does not fit with the style at all. And, there's a value to that pub and how it looks. You could have a picture of it on your wall painted. It would be worth something. If that was painted 100 years ago by a certain artist, it's got a value to it. It is like the Mona Lisa paintings. People are now, they're not short of money. And they're just going AWOL with the money for the sake of it. Like, when you've ate so many pies, then, I'm full now. Then they're having extra just for leisure. There are beautiful places that councils are getting far too much money now, but it's always been, it's a Labour area, Labour Party have always been poor and had much, so we want more. But it's getting to a point now where the Labour Party the council aren't short of money. The council aren't poor. The council are doing a £210 billion regeneration project. Now, they might say, the money's only for that. They're not poor. Our councillors had more money than anywhere else. And it really is choosing the wrong places to do things like in Iburton at the park. It's actually, when you're doing a painting and you get a painting just right, some people add too much to a painting and it spoils it and ruins it. And that's what people are now doing at parks and places. They're going overboard. They're not short of money. We're not poor. It's not a poverty-stricken area. It isn't. The council have just got far too much money now, and they're going and doing things in Armonbury on the roads and streets to, there's a part of the village in Armonbury where it comes up and meets it, and they've fitted all these things for the new school that apparently they're going to be changing because of what new housing they're trying to build and the co-op they've upgraded, and it's really ruined the look of that road. It's got an old stone water trough and a pavement with some cottages with doors, and it was just the absolute perfect thing. And they've gone and put a brand new wide pavement, modern pavement thing in there, and it's ruined the look of it. And I had photos of that on my phone. It's another thing. I seem to be going around and taking pictures of places. Someone's looking through my phone and they're going to that place and then they're changing it. And if I bet on the national lottery numbers, there are 58 numbers. The odds of them choosing that number in the lottery, there's a certain odds, like 58 to 1. It's beyond coincidence. It cannot have, I'd be like Marty McFly with the almanac on Back to the Future when he knows all the bets before they happen because he's got the almanac and it tells him who's going to win all the horse races. I've been going around Huddersfield taking photos of exact places, and they must have been looking at my phone photos. I mean, on Doctor Who on Series 13, she says, we've got all your photos. It's almost like a scene from there. They wouldn't an expert gambler wouldn't have as much accuracy in odds. I have specifically photographed places, right? Now, the council, the odds of the council going round and just doing certain places up, why is it, right, that Richard Smith and Bernard and other councillors, that they must be like some sort of miracle odds people? The exact places that I have photographed on my phone have been targeted and changed. That means that my favourite special spots around Huddersfield, every place I've been going to and photographing, oh, I like that, someone's been going around and vandalising it by changing or upgrading it. They've done it in Linley to the Stones as well just recently. I want to know who is doing it, because there's nothing wrong with me. Neil Oliver and Lawrence Fox, professional politicians, are actually on live television saying that they don't believe it's coincidence in these things that are happening. They believe that it's intended and someone's behind it. Now, this is what happened to the Warriors 2 Milford. That Alex Hogg map had a letter D on it, and it was Liberal area, solid. Now, at one point, Labour got control for 3-year term, and in that exact time, they built that letter D-shape housing estate on it and wrote off the ancient site, while Valley was excavating nearby, and it sealed off from excavation after the war had started, when Valley started excavating for 6 years. That was a surgical action. It was a perfect execution. It was perfectly executed and timed. There were planning behind it. There has to have been strategic, expert planning behind it. Execution. It was intended. It wasn't just an unlucky event. There were a human mind behind it. This is what's happening to these places, like at Highburn and like at those stones in Lily and other places. But they're the things that are beautiful. Everyone, loads of people like those places. That's why they were there. Now, I think there is some entity behind it. And names are popping up because we've got an housing build happening that people aren't happy about. Who's behind it? Earl Dartmouth. Right, what else has happened? Transdev took over from Yorkshire Tiger. Right, and what's happened? Someone changed it from the 233 to D1. Denby Darts. It goes straight past the land that Dartmouth owns. What are the chances of that? There is a mind engaged, either it's Richard Smith's mind, or Earl Dartmouth's mind, or Transdev's mind. A person spoke to a person, or someone looked at something and saw correlations, or there was a meeting in a room, or a telephone call, or an email, and a mind engaged it and used an intellectual reference, and it has meaning. Now, I think that Earl Dartmouth engaged. It's like on Star Trek, when he gives commands Picard on Star Trek, he says, engage. Engage means to make contact. The cogs are spinning freely on the gear until you engage and they make contact on the clutch and it drives the vehicle forward into motion. It engages, right? Now, you can engage with impulse power or you can engage in warp speed, right? Now, if people are just looking at things and making connections and coincidences and thoughts popping into their head and they have ideas and, we know that Earl Dartmouth is on there. Let's name the bus after him. That's an impulse. They're operating on impulse power. They engaged with impulse power, right? But Dartmouth does have the land. The question is, how did he end up with it? And what's he doing messing up building houses there, right? There was an impulse power engaged, but you've got other powers of action. Now, when you have meetings with people in rooms and a discussion ensues, and you might have a representative from Earl Dartmouth, and you might have a representative from the bus company, and you might have Richard Smith from the council, and they're talking, and they say, oh yeah, I know Earl Dartmouth, yeah, no, when the buses, let's call it darts. That's more than impulse power. You've got a human engaging and making decisions in and around certain influential people, and is using a meaning. Here's a man that we know called Dartmouth, and he's building houses, and I'm on the Tory party, and so is he. That means he's an associate of mine and affiliated with me, and I am going to engage, and I'm going to choose to call a bus a name that means something and will mean something to someone else. Why would you do that? Oh, because it's a nod to Dartmouth, because it's an honour of Dartmouth. Right, so when everyone reads it, it's going to honour Dartmouth and mean Dartmouth, so it has got a meaning. So you want it to mean something to the people. It's not just a random number of bus that you identify with that's 233 so people know where they're going. You want to call it Dartmouth for the honour of Dartmouth. So everyone goes, Dartmouth, Dartmouth, Dartmouth. You know, nod to Dartmouth as the bus goes past. It's about to Dartmouth. So it was engaged, intended, and it meant something to Dartmouth, right? So what does it mean in a period of complete Liberal control when the Labour Party get in and do a nod to the letter D on Alex Hogg's map, a D over Huddersfield on the map, over Dalton, when they put a letter D on the Warriors Mound, there's clearly, obviously, a massive hill fort within 3.5 kilometres of Castle Hill that didn't get excavated because the war broke out and put Varley off, and Varley's still excavating, but he ain't going to get a chance to finish his excavations and move them over there because you're going to build an housing estate on it, right? And now it's a letter D, and that's D for Dartmouth as well. What a coincidence. And then someone chose, let's decide who's going to be the police chief of West Yorkshire. It could be anyone, right? There are hundreds of police officers, right? Let's choose someone. We'll put some names in a hat. We'll shake them around, right, like we're doing a raffle. It could be John, it could be Sally, it could be Samantha, it could be Lucy, it could be Deborah. Let's shake up the tombola hat, right? Let's pull a name out for police chief of West Yorkshire. Who's it going to be? Put your money on. What photos have I got on my phone? Which sites are going to get destructed and built on the ones that we like? I'll shake the names in a hat. We know the odds that it could be 58-1. Who's going to be the next police chief officer? Whoa! It's D! It's D! It's D! I don't believe it! It's D! Can you believe it? What are the chances of that? It's D! It's D, D, D! What are the odds on it, right? Now, did someone engage in that? Now, the other power besides engaging on the Enterprise Starship Command, and this is an analogy, right? This is an analogy. The other power is warp speed, and that's really when you want to bend it, right? Warp speed breaks the speed of light, right? Now, this is what's happening, because we're getting strange things happening, what we can't explain. If you went past the speed of light, that means that a strange thing would happen, because something would happen quicker than light travels. Now, if something travels faster than light, we don't know that it really can exist because light's the fastest thing. So if a pack of Smarties disappears from my pocket faster than the speed of light, I think there's something strange going on because they disappear quicker than the speed of light, right? So where have my Smarties gone? It's not possible. It's odd. It's a freak of nature. It's been bent and warped, right? Now there are odd warp things happening. For example, right? Sarah Morrissey does really well for the Liberal Democrats in Sunderland. Does amazingly well, right? Anyone would want, a councillor like that in their town. And then that's not good for the Tories though, because the Liberals are the opposition to the Tories. And then what happens? Now a little kid's got hit by a car. The name of Sarah Morrissey. What are the chances of that? Put some names in a tombola out and pull them out. Get all my photos on my phone and pull them out. See which ones get vandalised and attacked. Right? It's been warped, but something engaged and it happened. But what happened to Boris Johnson's next door neighbour when his wife got shot and then the guy blew his own head off with a shotgun? That's, mysterious just when Boris Johnson's under pressure and the Tories. It scares everyone. Is there an effect there? Yes. We are scared. It's intimidating. Fearful. Other Tories might be frightened of it because Boris Johnson's the leader. The other Tories might think, now I'm frightened of doing something my party's not happy with because something weird might happen to me or my family. So I'm very frightened now because what power might happen. I best be obedient to Boris and the Tories or weird things might happen, you know. And they have done to councillors in Kirklees Council. In fact, I knew a really amazing councillor on Kirklees Council, and you won't hear me say this often because I usually diss in Kirklees Council. There was an amazing councillor on Kirklees, and many people have said that he was really good, and then something weird happened to his family. Someone died, and he went through a bit of trauma for it. So, you know, these things happen. Is someone... all what's happened to us is mainly because of one of the next door neighbours, her husband passed away, and then she moved and sold her house, and then that caused the guy next door to move, and then they sold the houses, and instead of somebody else just buying the houses and moving in, very beautiful houses that were very fitting to the Pond Lane name. They were like bungalows with gardens and ponds in them that fit the street name. They got knocked down, and then the council passed permission, the Tories passed permission to build houses that have written the street off. They've got big fences and electric gates to get in. They're very authoritarian, yuppie houses. They don't look anything like the name of the street, Pond Lane. It's ruined. We had beautiful gardens and neighbours next to us, right? And it's just ruined the whole dynamics. Why was permission passed? It's ruined the look and appearance of the area. What are these assessment officers doing? The assessment officers they don't know what they're looking at when they look at it. Or the Tory headquarters are telling them to bend the rules, and the assessment officers are actually not doing their job properly in their observations. How does it happen? I think it's mysterious that guy died and the whole chain reaction happened, and then the other guy sold his field and they've built houses. Around us has been blitzed. It's like we've been attacked with houses around us now because of that one incident. It's very similar to what happened with Boris Johnson. This is war power in effect. But I don't think it's just a coincidence. Some people do. But Neil Oliver and Lawrence Fox, a professional politician for the Reclaim Party, have been saying on live broadcasts that they're starting to think that it's not coincidence, that there is something planned behind it and strategic. But that would then accuse someone of maybe even killing people or murdering people, that's really frightening people, and it's intimidating. Now, what other things are happening that might scare people and be intimidating? Well, we've got the Grenfell Tower setting on fire. We've got the Arndale Centre. We used to have bomb scares on motorways with briefcases. But all those things have happened. We did have bomb scares on motorways. We did have briefcases. And it did intimidate and scare people. But someone claimed responsibility for it. The IRA, they said, oh, we did it were us. So they actually claimed that it was them that did it. They admitted it. Now, the only difference with what's been happening in some of these warped events is that no one's claiming it. No one says, oh, it was us. Unless it's the Asians. If it's ISIS, then it's okay because they can put the blame on them. It's almost like the Tandy brothers. If it's ISIS, it's ISIS, it's an ISIS attack. Well, we've claimed it, right? Or if it's a bomber in London, it's all right. Why is it always the Asians who own up to it? Oh, he's an extremist, he's an Asian extremist. They always own up to it. Or if it's the IRA, they own up to it. Or Extinction Rebellion, they don't mind. Oh, it's Gail Bradbrook. I did it. Or even if it's Jonathan Fuller, he says, oh, I did it. I'm Jonathan Fuller, I did it, right? Now, if you're a political party, Gail Bradbrook, right? Gail Bradbrook and Roger Hallam don't mind smashing windows. They'll smash windows all day. They'll say, I did it, and they'll even film themselves doing it. They're not bothered if people don't vote for the parties. He's got a party, Pink Burning Heart Party, Gail don't mind if people stop supporting Extinction Rebellion because of what she's doing. She's doing it because she wants them to support it. Now, if Boris Johnson says, I pulled some strings and Diana had a car crash, or, we pulled some strings, the Tories pulled some strings and, Diana had a car crash. Now, what had happened then is But people would be mortified and horrified, and they wouldn't vote for the Tories anymore. No one would vote for them, and they won't get into the government. So they can't, the Tories can't really operate honestly and openly like Gail does when she smashes windows. But there are lots of things that the Tories want to do like Gail does that they're annoyed with, and they want to not only get people to vote for their party, they want to deter people voting for other parties like the Lib Dems, like Sarah Morrissey. And they want their own councillors and ministers to be obedient to the Tories, because a lot of them are rebelling, and they might be wanting them to do things opposite than what they want to do, right? So what they actually do is, I think, they intimidate them, and these events happen. Because what happens when Boris Johnson's next door neighbour shoots his wife and himself? It scares people. It scares Tories because they're fearful that if they don't do what Prince Charles and Boris Johnson say, something strange might happen to them. Bad things might happen. The wife might mysteriously get ill or other things. There is an intimidating factor to it. Now, I'm seeing intimidating factors with me since I've been heavily and deeply engaged in political actions, with my own investigations and evidence gathering, and my opposition to what councils are doing, and other actions like even just petitioning. I'm having signatures have been taken from my petition, and links aren't working on there. Mysterious things are happening. My phone's not working properly. We've had the planes moved over his house, and then people do the road up and they don't do it properly, and there's like a noisy grate that's like a cowbell sound, really distressing us. And then the council move the cars from one place to another place, going past his house, keeping us up all night. Lots of events happen that end up being really stressful and upsetting. I'm lucky I'm a strong person. I've noticed that. But there are other people, things happening to other people as well. But I just don't think it's coincidence. Now, there are capacities that people have got. Extinction Rebellion do things to make a point out of it, and they do artwork. They put big dodos outside Boris Johnson's meetings. Extinct dodos, models, they put them outside Boris Johnson's under political rights. Because it's having a joke and intimidating, and it has a meaning. Not unlike the Warriors' Tomb has a meaning when it has the letter D on, like on the Alex Ogg map, D for Duns, on the Liberty Hill, right? And like on Earl Dartmouth now, they've put the Transdev Bus to D for Dartmouth. It's all power to Dartmouth. And the characters that ended up being designed on there, whoever put the input in, whether it was the council or whether it was some email from someone or some telephone call, we don't know for sure, because we'd have to have access to all the files and data, and then that files and data can be edited and changed at a later date, right? We don't know how those sinister characters ended up on there. But as it's been driving round, it looks sinister. And it makes us think that the kids around there are sinister. And then people ended up putting now everyone's getting fences on the gates. Selling gates, they're selling locked gates, all the houses are buying them. And we've got security guards in town and in Barham Arcade, and they're wanting to do that road up that bus is on, and it's deterring people from going on it because it's got a talking bus that's really repetitive, that's going next stop, next stop, next stop, next stop, next stop the whole time without stopping. It's intimidating. And it's actually making Huddersfield look bad, even though the government is saying, the council is saying we're going to be spending loads of money on Huddersfield and we're going to do a cultural heart. But yet, there's all these negative things happening, and people are saying we don't trust each other anymore. There's more crime. So we're not evolving forward. There's an actual devolution. How's that happening and why? Is it immigration? I don't think people are poorer than they used to be, because you can go on eBay, buy things second hand. You can go to cheaper supermarkets like Lidl to buy things. It doesn't make sense. So, it's just... People at the council aren't short of money. They're doing things up when it doesn't need doing up. The only other reason why things are getting done up that don't need doing up is because people can't actually see the beauty in it, or they can't see the nice part of it and they can't see the nice aspects of it. And that's the problem. Either people have got too much money and they're doing it for the sake of it, and mainly because TV are influencing them and the radio is influencing commercial radio. Buy this, you want this new garage door, you want this new conservatory, you want that. It's influencer. That's people trying to get people to buy something just so they can make money out of them, right? It's influencer. And that's what's ruining a lot of things that are actually beautiful and nice for the sake of a profit. Loads of things are getting ruined. You've got all these beautiful paintings and all these beautiful little places that are magical and got a value on them, a great value of being there. That thing, it's like bars of gold laying around. We've got Sorrel Lamore is telling everyone to start buying artwork because it'll go up in value, but then we've got the council and people wrecking everything that's worth something because either they've got too much money or they can't see the gold. It's like the end of a rainbow. Look, there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Look at the corner of that road there. It's absolutely beautiful, just where the park is in the trees. It's like a bar of gold laying there. You don't need to buy a Banksy artwork. It's a bar of gold sitting there. But someone wants to make a bar of gold out of it for themselves, and if they can go knock it down and wreck it and rebuild it, then they've just made themselves some money, and then they've actually taken our gold off us, you know? It's getting ridiculous now. I think there are two things we need to do. And the first thing is get people to appreciate and be able to see and recognise something that has a great value that's there, that other people might not be able to see the value in it. And the other thing is that when people have got too much money, they don't have to spend it on pies and eat them. They don't have to just buy a garage door or replace all the doors in the houses if they've got nice, stylish or character doors. You need to replace all the doors of the house because a guy on TV is telling you to do it. You know, you've been influenced. We're spending and wasting a hell of a lot of money, councils, now, because they think, we're poor. We're not. We really need to start intervening in things getting done just for the sake of it, or the sales pitch that we need it when we don't, you know? And also to see when there's something there, the value in it as it is, that it's almost like a bar of gold laying there and you don't need to change it. You know, and actually changing it is to reduce. It's like turning gold into silver just because but you're getting paid for transforming it. It's ridiculous, you know. And then there's all these other odd things that are happening that I don't think that they're random coincidences. It is getting into conspiracy theory a bit, but we have to go on to that subject because Russell Brand is talking about it with his 5 million subscribers. Lawrence Fox and Neil Oliver are talking about it in political party conversation. It's on the table for discussion. David Icke talks about it. An anonymous official are telling us who might be behind it and who's making all the money out of these developments being done, that they're forcing on us and really pushing on us, and money is going into government, and who gets paid to do the development job? The contractors and developers, who owns them, and the shares, who profits from it. It happens to be the ministers and the aristocracy who own the shares in it, and they're the ones who own the parties and tell the parties how to vote, and they're doing it more for themselves, yet they aren't actually improving the area. They might think they're doing us a favour, they're benefiting the area, they're modernising, making progress, but yet we're not making progress in humanity. What they've been doing the last 10 years has been inhumane. They've been devolving humanity because they're saying, we don't trust you anymore as much as we used to. We're having to put security up everywhere. We don't trust you anymore as we used to. We have to put security guards in McDonald's and in Barham Arcade. The devolving us and actually doing things to prove they're devolving us, because they're saying, you're not trusted on your own. You're not trusted to put your seatbelt on. You're not trusted to, drive on this road. You're not trusted to go around the corner. You're not trusted to have an house without gates on it. We're devolving and very fast when they're saying, we're making progress. I think that they are wanting to devolve us so they can control us more and say that at the same time as saying, oh, we're doing loads of good things for you, we're making a cultural heart, we're doing this, we're bringing you more technology, but then they're saying, but you're not trustworthy, then we don't trust you, you can't have the data, we don't trust you with the data, we don't trust you with car details, we don't trust you with his children, we've got our fences around the school. We've got this contradiction. They're claiming that we're going full speed, foot to the floor into the future. We've never had as much communication and tech as before, but then they're saying we've never been as untrustworthy as before. Never on the face of this earth has mankind been as untrustworthy, because they don't trust us with anything anymore. They don't trust us with any data. We can't walk around the corner anymore. We can't do anything. We've got to have gates and bars and locks and blocks and bans. I think they're trying to turn us into criminals. I think they want us to be criminals who have amazing technology attached to them under, we're all criminal, but they've got the technology to make us all good if they can put the microchip in his head. Elon, we're all becoming more and more untrustworthy and more criminal, while Elon Musk is coming up with more and more computer technology to implant into us to make us good, behave. But yet, how is it that we need that when we're supposed to be evolving enlightened humans who are becoming more human, and humanity is supposed to be on an evolutionary path? It don't make sense. I think Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg want to have us as prisoners with a headset on under the command of Picard, and we obey Picard under the Enterprise, because if we weren't under Picard's command and weren't employed by the Enterprise, then we aren't trustworthy. We can be trusted when we are under employment of the corporation, when they are paying us to behave and they're watching us with their security cameras and we're buying their products and we go home and watch their adverts. When we are under Starfleet command at work, we can give people as money over the counter and in the till and give them email addresses and trust them with the data when it's under control of the company chief executive and he's telling them all what to do. But we aren't to be trusted, and we can't be trusted as private individuals to walk down the street without wanting to look up someone's drive and rob them, or steal the children at an increasing rate, so that every school has to have bars around it. The evolutionary humaneness of humans is going backwards that fast that schools are having to devolve so quickly that they need fences around them. Or weapons are being made too fast and distributed around the world, whereas it's too dangerous. But who would make such a technological thing as a weapon to have that happen? What do you want? All your kids in prison school, or handing your weapons to the government, and we won't have guns anymore because we've never even had them in England anyway. It would be insane if you chose a weapon, then having to take all the fences down from the schools. There's something. See, I think that it's a combination of retardedness and absolute power and authority, pursuit of absolute power and authority. That's what it is, all this, in a way, the tech has ruined it, because they've made the information that available everywhere that now no one can be trusted. And so, in a way, the technology is going too faster than what they'd hoped the humaneness of mankind could evolve. If they would have been more concentrated on being humane, not as greedy for themselves, if bosses would have not been interested in profits and had shared money out with their workers so everyone was paid evenly and no one had more or less money really than everyone else, or a better or worse house, then we wouldn't need to be bothered so much about theft, security, data and things like that, and humanity would have progressed quicker than the technology. So really, I think that it's a disability. I think Boris is a disabled badge holder. I think Boris is greedy. I think that he's inhumane. I don't think he's evolutionary as enlightened as anyone else. And I think that the Tories are childish. And I think that they are holding back the evolution of mankind's humaneness by their greed and corruption and pursuit for more for themselves, more power and money and control. And that's why they're having to even have all these things on their tech, because by being greedy and being Tories, then they have to accuse us of, from the deficit of being in a position where being needy, and obviously we're less educated. Maybe they don't think we're educated enough to have the money, but if you're an educated person would know that, if you don't have a lack or need for something because there's more even, sharing around, then why do you need to steal it from someone else, It's just, I truly believe that the Tories are they are the retards. They're amazing with numbers, but they're not amazing with humaneness, with humanity. They can do all these amazing calculations, but how about working out that, if we, they could have done this in the 1920s. If everywhere would have been like, Bybury Village, then, who would need a new house or a new village? And if you wanted a different style change, then, that's why they're building the new cities and places like, Milton Keynes. I'm quite certain if you did a survey of... I'd like the Tories to do a survey. A style survey, an honest one that's not cheated or scammed, where they actually survey the entire population of the country, and ask them what type of person they're in and background, and things as well, and see what their style is, if they prefer traditional style or whether they prefer this future style. And, without the corporate entities cheating on it and changing the forms or whatever, just so they can win and get their future tech buildings that they want everywhere. And an honest referendum on what the style of England actually is, and whether we should be being pitched these ridiculous get a new garage door advert or replace all the doors in your house with all these, new tech modern ones just because there's a profit in it for someone. It really is kind of ridiculous in a way.